It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you today at Telecom Tower, and I thank you for responding positively to my invitation. On the 15th of May this year, for my first press conference, I elaborated a few priorities that I see for Mauritius Telecom in the coming years. So very quickly, the first of the priority was the accelerated deployment of fiber. So we want to deploy fiber as quickly as possible to 350,000 households in Mauritius, a plan which was around 7-8 years in the offing, and we've moved it to 3 years. Within the next 3 years, 2018 or before, we would like to deploy fiber to all households and all businesses. The second priority was reinventing the customer experience, so service. The third was diversification and overseas acquisition. Fourth was innovation. And the fifth was creation of value for customers. Within just a few months, we've made significant progress on each one of the priorities. But for today, we'll stick to the last priority, the fifth priority, which is creation of value for customers, and more specifically, as the invitation you should have seen, is for the ICT BPO sector. In my ending note of my last press conference, I had specifically mentioned that the next objective was to meet the key stakeholders of the sector to try and understand their needs, their concerns, and how could Mauritius Telecom help in enabling that sector. So we had a meeting on the 10th of June this year. We had the privilege of meeting some key stakeholders of the ICT BPO sector. They voiced out their concerns, their issues, their expectations. And thereon, I also took the commitment that within the next 8 weeks, we would come back to them in terms of proposed solutions from Mauritius Telecom. If I had to summarize the key issues that were identified that day, the first, without any surprise, was price. The cost of dedicated international bandwidth is perceived to be very high compared to other countries promoting BPO services. So that was the first priority, the first concern. The second was obviously speed. And the third was service. Given the specificity of the industry, the ICT BPO industry requires a much closer, a more responsive level of service. So just before I announce the new offers proposed by Mauritius Telecom, I would like to first place the context. I would like to share a few facts, especially for our journalist friends, to understand concerning Mauritius and our international connectivity, what is the context. First of all, Mauritius is geographically located at a disadvantage compared to competing BPO locations such as Vietnam, Tunisia, Morocco, and Kenya. You can see where Mauritius is, you can see where the other countries are. We need to be able to connect to either Europe or Asia, and the countries have an advantage geographically. So we are a remote island. This is the first thing that needs to be taken into account when thinking about international connectivity. Secondly, without any surprise, Mauritius has a limited market size. Therefore, we do not benefit from economies of scale, and it's very difficult to recover quickly significant investments in submarine cable. Thirdly, contrary to popular belief, and I've heard this a few times, so I want to make it clear. Contrary to popular belief, investments in submarine cables is not a one-time affair. It requires continuous investment for the increase, for the upgrades, number one, and secondly, for the increase in capacity. Because as you need more capacity, you need to invest more. Another aspect that cannot be neglected is the fact that the decrease in price, as you know, given the market size, as I've mentioned, any decrease in price obviously affects, has a direct impact on our profits. Mauritius Telecom, as a company, needs to have healthy profits. Why does it need to have healthy profits? Recently, I've just announced that Mauritius Telecom is bringing forward, like I said, an investment of 5.1 billion rupees within the next 3 years instead of the next 7-8 years. How is that possible? That's possible because Mauritius Telecom is healthy in terms of profits. So in order for the company to be able to make significant investments in the interest of the country, we need to have healthy profits. So that's important to note. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to take a leap in terms, because we're a small country, a small market size. To take it further, we need to be able to invest significantly. For that, we need to be profitable. However, as I had mentioned in my last press conference, so profits is one thing, but I did mention in my last press conference, the previous Minister of Technology, Communication and Innovation, Honorable Pravin Jagannath, had requested all stakeholders of the ICT industry to have vision and think long term in the interest of the country. We were encouraged to leave the good for the great, to sacrifice, not to be stuck in old paradigms, to be bold and to act now. Our current Minister of TCI, Honorable Roshi Badin, has reinforced this message and given his full support for any project that will help stimulate the ICT BPO sector as a whole. The final and perhaps most important element to consider is the Vision 2030 as recently presented by our Prime Minister. The ICT BPO sector has been earmarked as one of the main growth pillars, and all stakeholders, public and private, have been called upon to collaborate so that we may achieve our goals in an effective way. Mauritius Telecom cannot remain insensitive to such a call, and therefore has decided to take bold initiatives on pricing and on speed of its international bandwidth offers in order to take worldwide leadership in the competitive BPO landscape. Which leads me to now get to the offers. For the ICT BPO sector, there are three main products. The first product, known as the Global IP Premium, is a point-to-multipoint dedicated international bandwidth with 100% bandwidth guarantee. And what we saw in our discussions and in our analysis is that there's no uniformity in the ICT BPO sector. Each company has different requirements. Some want speed more than price, need speed more than price, everybody needs price, but some need price more than speed, and some need a combination of both. So as you will see, we've tried to achieve a lot of objectives, and we've taken really bold moves, really bold measures. So a 2 megabit connection, which was normally at 67,200, is now, the price is being reviewed to 28,350. On average, you will see, we've taken an example of 3 different connection speeds. We have an average of around 60% price decreasing that we are announcing as of today. As I mentioned also, is that some have a need for speed. Some companies have a greater need for speed. So again, we will use 3 examples. So 2 megabit, 4 megabit, and 10 megabit connection. As you can see, for those who need speed, that means they're happy with the price, but they need speed. The 2 megabit connection, the price will be increased. For the same price, you will get a 10 megabit connection, and the rest you can see as well. So for those who require speed more at the same price, their speeds will be increased by 5 times, and in 10 megabit by 3 times. As a summary, just for you to be able to understand, any customer, an ICT BPO customer using the Global IP Premium has a choice to make. And this is where we will assist our customers in terms of counseling, and we will sit down with them to understand the business model, is to see whether they would like to go for a decrease in price, or they would like to go for an increase in speed, or maybe a combination of both. So we wanted to create flexibility for the ICT BPO sector. I'll move on to the next product, which is the Global MPLS, which is more of a specialized service for large BPOs. It's a point-to-point dedicated guaranteed bandwidth with redundancy. As you will see from the table, this is a high-end product, and we've used a few examples to show the price decrease. This is a straightforward price decrease of between 15 to 31%. So I would say an average of around 15 to 20% price decrease on this very high-end product. And it's not easy because it's not easy to do a price decrease on this one, I must say, because as I mentioned, it's a guaranteed bandwidth with redundancy. So it's a very high-end product. I'll move on to the third product, which is quite widely used, which is the IPVPN Pro, which actually amounts to high-speed internet. And again, we'll use a few examples. In this segment, we have gone for a significant increase in speed for the same price. So a 6 meg connection will now go to a 30 meg connection. And as you can see, since we're talking about prices, so the revenues are still in my head. So for a 30 meg connection, actually the customer has a choice. They can either increase their speed again or go for a decrease in price. And it's a very, very significant decrease. By doing so, what we want to do is encourage the ICT BPO businesses to bring more business to Mauritius. We want to be an enabler. Mauritius Telecom is an enabler. We're not competing with our partners. We want to enable their business. Most companies, as I've mentioned, have specific needs depending on their business model. So one of the key aspects of this price reduction and these new offers is that we are setting up a specialized team to devise customized offers according to your needs as you may require, as per your business model. So we will help you, assist you in taking your business further. These are just a few examples. The whole price list, of course, it's difficult to go through the whole price list, which will be made available to you, of course, concerning the different products. I will move on now to concerning service, because the second, or let's say the third aspect that the ICT BPO companies mentioned in our meeting on the 10th June was that they need a different level of service. They want some things that are customized to them. So it was generally felt that a more responsive level of service was desired. Therefore, we have come up with the following measures. First of all, it was felt that the time for installation for our services was very long. We are reviewing our team, and the time to installation will be shortened from 8 weeks to 1 week as from now, assuming clearances from local authorities, of course, obtained. So we'll be significantly reducing the time to install. We'll have dedicated teams. We are working on restructuring the teams. So as from probably the 1st of October, you will have access to a very fast service. Of course, we're starting right now, but I prefer saying 1st of October because it takes a little bit of time for the team to be set up. The second aspect of service, 90% of our BPO customers are within the cyber city. Now, the cyber city itself is fibered, but all the buildings in the cyber city are not fibered. So it takes a little bit of time again before we can deploy to, let's say, new customers coming or existing customers who want additional service within the buildings. Therefore, Mauritius Telecom has taken again a bold decision. We will now, as from now, we will start fibering all buildings in the cyber city, pre-cable them, so that anytime you require our service, it can be very quick service. So within the next 3 months, granting, of course, that the building owners give us the permission, we shall be putting fiber in all the buildings in the cyber city, which affects more than 90% of the ICT BPO customers. The third element of service that we are tackling is, as from the 1st of October, BPOs will benefit from a same-day repair service. I think the services that ICT BPO companies offer, time is of essence, is critical to their business, and this is why we are going to offer a same-day repair service in case there are any issues. Finally, the fourth element of what we are offering on the service element is our business hours are normally from 9 to 4, as you all know, and on weekdays. And while discussing again, we have heard the ICT BPO companies, our partners, our stakeholders, we have heard you. You need a service because you work after hours, you work late, you have different timings. Therefore, as from the 1st of October again, we are extending our service to a 24/7 round-the-clock service for all ICT BPO companies. Therefore, after all these changes, so what is the status of Mauritius as an ICT BPO destination? We've talked about the Vision 2030. We know everybody in the industry wants us to go further. We want investors to come in. So, but where do we fit in today? Where do we stand today? So we've done a small graph of where we were standing as Mauritius Telecom in terms of our prices. As you can see in a darker shade of grey is that Mauritius Telecom in the different speed segments was where it was standing. And if you see this dotted line, basically the ones under the bottom, the dotted line are the countries that are the most competitive in the world today. Now, there was a reason why Mauritius Telecom was at that place. I've mentioned the constraints that are there. It is not easy to get back the investment because of the size of the country, because of the distance. It is not easy. So what has changed? Why are we now changing? Why are we coming up with a new formula? Because we need to change strategy. We need to change strategy as a company. Why do we need to change strategy as a company? You know, traditional services like voice and SMS are falling. So today we can either stand still and see the industry becoming more and more uncompetitive on the world market, or we decide a change in strategy and together we position Mauritius at a very attractive scale. So with the new tariffs, we'll be mostly amongst the top 3 or 4 countries in the world with the new tariffs. And this was important for us because together with the industry, we want to attract new investors, we want to attract new business. The second element of why is the Vision 2030, as I mentioned. The Prime Minister has made a call to the public and the private sector to join together to see what we can do. So we need to act now as a company. With the tariffs, as I've said, we now are amongst the most competitive. And as you can see, the price per megabit per second is going down from 850 USD, which was our previous price, to $200 US, which is one of the most competitive tariffs in the world. Now, this kind of pricing, the fiber infrastructure, the service that we will be providing, combined with the inherent features of doing business in Mauritius, such as all of us know the advantages of doing business in Mauritius: political stability, vibrant democracy, strong regulatory and legislative framework, conducive business environment, a financial services hub, bilingual and skilled workforce, safe, peaceful and secure destination, convenient time zone, and very importantly, the Government Vision 2030. The Government Vision 2030 also gives confidence to investors. So given all these factors, leaves me with no doubt that Mauritius will now take worldwide leadership as an ICT BPO destination for investors. Hence, ladies and gentlemen, Mauritius Telecom is ready, as you've seen on the first slide, to scale new heights together with the ICT BPO sector. Here, I would perhaps like to make an appeal to our journalist friends from the media and the press. Barring Mauritius Telecom, I think if you do find value in what we have done, it is important to market Mauritius as an ICT BPO destination. Investors do read what you put in the papers, and it's not about Mauritius Telecom, it's about marketing Mauritius. So if you do find value in what we've done, it is important that you portray Mauritius as an excellent ICT, if not the preferred ICT BPO destination in the world. Just an appeal, a personal appeal to our journalist friends. Before I end and take your questions, let me give again our journalist friends a tip for the next press conference. So my next press conference will be on innovation. I thank you very much, and of course I will welcome any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Of competitors, or is it just because you have to follow the new trend worldwide?
Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah. Sorry. So your question is whether we are following competitors, and or whether it's a trend. Sorry, the second part of the question was is the world trend. First of all, Mauritius Telecom.
I just wanted to know whether you are changing prices because of fierce competition in the country, or is it just because you are following the international trend to offer better services, value for money?
Thank you. So to the first aspect, whether we are following competition. First of all, Mauritius Telecom is the leader in every segment. And specifically in this segment, we have extensive market share. That means we have probably around 90% market share. It's a very specialized service. So definitely, as leaders, we have a vision. That's why we are not only following international trends, we are positioning Mauritius as the preferred ICT BPO destination. Now, the strategy in this is twofold. One is for Mauritius, one is for the company itself. So, as a company, we want new customers to come in. If we stick to our previous strategy, which worked for the time that it was in place, but today things are changing very fast. There are new countries that are investing into ICT and want to position themselves. So, we could start losing our leadership position or our position as an ICT BPO destination. So, the answer to your question is one, yes, we want to position ourselves in terms of worldwide as a country. We want to help do that. Mauritius Telecom wants to help do that. And secondly, Mauritius Telecom itself, as a business, wants that more investors come to Mauritius and that we grow the industry.
More questions, please?
En question française, si je peux me permettre. Vous avez parlé donc d'un délai de déploiement de la fibre optique dans la cybercité, dans l'ensemble des bâtiments de la cybercité. Et qu'en est-il pour les autres régions de Maurice, notamment où il y a d'autres entreprises BPO?
I'll answer in English if that for you. In terms of the deployment of fiber, again in the first press conference we have announced that we are going to step up the fiber deployment across the country. We have restructured and we still are restructuring the teams to be able to go even faster, and we are making significant progress. I will leave the numbers for another press conference, another time that we meet, but what I can tell you is that we are moving very, very fast. Concerning the businesses, we have a specialized team that also brings fiber to businesses, and since ICT BPO is again an important industry, we have a specialized team that deploys specifically for these kinds of companies. It's called Fiber to the Business, so we go faster than what we are doing for residential, for example. So it affects the whole country, but when we mention fiber to the building in the cyber cities, because you don't know in which building, for example, if it's outside the cyber city, that an ICT BPO company may choose to go. So, but it's evident that in the cyber city that most companies would be technology related. So for cyber city, we have a specific plan, whereas for the rest of the country, it would be on demand.
You are talking about pre-cable with optic fibers in the building. Will it be free of charge, or the company will have to pay you?
Yes, we are investing. That's why we're taking a very bold move. We're investing by again pre-cabling. Well, it's not pre-cabling anymore because the buildings are up, but let's say we're by cabling these buildings. We are investing. Mauritius Telecom is investing.
Good morning. I am Rajiv from Apollo from the BPO sector. It has been more than a decade that I have been working with Mauritius Telecom. In fact, it is the first time that Mauritius Telecom has not only met our expectation but exceeded our expectation. The pricing for our circuits is a very major segment in the P&L, and today I foresee that Mauritius can be a global leader in outsourcing solutions, and I thank you again for that competitive pricing. And one very important aspect as well, we need to keep the quality of service at the same level or even better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajiv. That's very encouraging for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that's all for the question time. Thank you very much for your presence, friends of medias. Anyway, we'll have each of you a press document when you get out of this press.